Hello, and welcome back to the Performance Marketing Unlocked podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Arthur, PMW's multimedia editor. This episode of the podcast is centered around e-commerce and how the channel needs to evolve for the AI era. Joining me to discuss this topic is Sue Azari, the e-commerce industry consultant at AppsFlyer. Sue is one of the leading voices in the industry across the e-commerce space, very prevalent on LinkedIn and internally within AppsFlyer. So she's the perfect expert to join me and talk all things AI and the future of e-commerce. So with that said, time to sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Performance Marketing Unlocked podcast. Sue, hello and welcome to the Performance Marketing Unlocked podcast studio. How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, really good. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. I mean, I was about to say it's been a hectic few weeks, but August, it's usually quite quiet on the work front, but personally, it's been very busy. I know myself, I've been coming hither and thither with AL and you know, one sort of holiday to the next. How's your August been as we move into September?
It's been nice. I spent most of it in London because I think it's the peak of London. So trying to take advantage of it, and then probably I'll squeeze some holidays when we get into the autumn. But I've just been enjoying sort of slow summer days in London. Also got the good weather.
I do know what you mean, actually. I find July, August is often the best time to be here because it's when it's sort of peak London summer. And particularly it can be a little bit too warm everywhere else. If you're going to go holidaying on the continent, I know in July you can get caught in 35 degree weather, which is a bit too much even for me. But as we head into spooky season and Q3 and people start gearing up for Q4, we're going to talk about the world of e-commerce today, something you're an expert in, and specifically how AI is impacting the e-commerce landscape. And we'll get into a few bits of the nitty-gritty later on, but do you want to just paint the picture for us, Sue, across your work? What have you been seeing happening as AI innovation is encroached upon the e-commerce landscape?
Yeah, so it's changed so rapidly. I think what we're seeing is a lot of change in user behavior and technology. And so what that looks like is we've got huge brands, we've got like Amazon and Walmart who are starting to use AI for fulfillment, for optimizing processes, for their marketing, for in-app and on-site user behavior in terms of using natural language searches and AI-driven chatbots as well. You've got the other side of this, which is these new platforms like ChatGPT and Perplexity that are, AI driven. And I read a study from Capgemini, which said that apparently 60% of users who were using Google search are now using like Perplexity or ChatGPT. So you've got this whole new channel that feels like it's come out of nowhere, and it's completely changed, how we're discovering products, how we're learning. So it's a new channel for e-commerce brands to start to think about using in addition to the existing mix of channels that they have already.
Have you found it changes people's priorities in terms of their channel mix? Do they need to be, as they sort of embed AI somewhere within that, are there channels that they need to be focusing on more alongside it? Are there channels they need to be focusing on less? Is anything becoming outdated as AI moves in?
I think what's interesting is thinking about how you as a brand appear within these platforms. And that's where we now have a new channel called GEO, which is Generative Engine Optimization.
We've been talking about this a little bit lately. Yeah,
we love an acronym.
The new buzzword is GEO.
Definitely. And so it's, again, a new channel where there's not really an existing skill set within e-commerce businesses. So it's not a case of you just take your SEO person and stick them on GEO. The way it works is a lot more complex. And so to answer your question about what do these brands need to think about, it's not just about, okay, how do we appear in, ChatGPT or Perplexity? It's like, what is the methodology behind that? And I think what's interesting is actually journalism and online media sources have been so important for that. So publications like, Financial Times or The Atlantic or The Court, actually data that's on there about brands, like that's what's being surfaced into the search results within these platforms. And so brands having to think a little bit more now about, okay, what's our content strategy from even like a brand perspective, rather than just working with like influencers. Actually, how do we work more with publications? What does our PR strategy look like? And then like community driven forums like Reddit, like they're powering a lot of what we're seeing from a results perspective within these platforms. So businesses having to really start to think more about content as a way of actually helping to boost their visibility, and that's all forms part of that GEO strategy. As well as what's quite interesting is like the product descriptions on site as well, and that's similar to how it helps with SEO, but that's also going to help from like a GEO perspective as well. And I know that companies like Walmart, they're actually using AI to create the product description, and those product descriptions then fueling the search results within these platforms. So it's having sort of like a multi-layered approach across different parts of the business.
AI becoming agentic in that sense, it can sort of optimize for itself and learn from itself.
Yeah, exactly. And I read that I can't remember exactly how many people Walmart said they thought it replaced, but it did the work of like thousands of people within like a couple of days. They were able to, I think, create something like 20,000 product descriptions within like a couple of hours. So there's obviously a resource element there and efficiencies within the business as well.
Are we a little bit, just like with SEO, we were sort of at the mercy of Google's algorithms and page rank, and it was a bit of a black box in that sense, and it might make changes and weighting adjustments that you just sort of have to figure out on the fly. Are we just sort of seeing the same challenges and issues when it comes to GEO? Obviously, citations are the big word that keep coming up now, and those are the name of the game. And as you mentioned there, places answer first. Sources like Reddit, Wikipedia is another one that's coming up a lot. They're doing very well. What does it mean for brands and advertisers and marketers? Are they just at the mercy now of these large language models that are powering a lot of these citations and things like AI mode and AI overviews on Google Chrome, for example?
I think, yes, if I go back to that Gemini stat, the reality is that it's becoming a normal user behavior. I think ChatGPT is now the 7th most used platform globally. So it is where people are. It's something that's here and it's what people are using. I think that what's interesting from a brand perspective, like, are they at the mercy of it? I think it depends on their customer. Like, so OpenAI doesn't release a lot of data about their platform usage, but Perplexity does, and they've got some stats on demographic breakdown. So if your core demographic is between, say, 25 to 50, actually they're most likely to be on those platforms. But if you've got a customer that might sit outside of that age range, actually you're a little bit less at the mercy of it, and it might not be sort of as make or break or as beneficial for your business right now, I would say. But it's still one of many channels. It's not the only channel. And I think that right now that agentic purchase path isn't quite there. So I know a lot of people are talking about, well, you can, put in, I'm looking for Nike shoes in a size 5, and then it'll do like the whole conversion path for you. And it's like really shortening that funnel. I think that for now, it's not quite become a normal user behavior from like a purchase channel yet. I think it's more of a discovery channel at the moment.
The big news of the week that we covered here on PMW was it appears that Amazon, who are the e-commerce kings, they certainly dominate the landscape globally. Their AI tool, Rufus, which is billed as the shopping assistant, has now got memory, or appears to have got memory, and is recalling previous interactions with users and shoppers, and is sort of, in that sense, becoming more of just a shopper assistant for one-to-one searches, but is now going, oh, I know this about you. I know you were looking for this product previously, product X, so now you might want product Y, or you were searching for this, but it was an abandoned search 3 months ago. Now, oh, I found one that's on discount. Maybe you want to buy it this occasion. What does it mean when you've got the biggest e-commerce player in the world clearly ahead of the rest of the pack when it comes to their AI innovations with all it's doing with Rufus? Is the gap just going to widen between Amazon and everybody else?
I think what will happen, and what we've seen already, is that others will copy. So Walmart have Sparky, which is their version, and Zalando, they haven't given it a name, but they have within their app, it's a ChatGPT powered AI assistant. So you can put in, I've got a wedding in Greece in July, what should I wear? It doesn't have that memory function there yet, which Rufus does. I think that brands will just try and play catch up and launch their own version. I know for Amazon, they've said that this year they think that Rufus will deliver $700 million in profit for them. So obviously it's huge revenue opportunity for them. And the memory bit is interesting because if we think about that in AI platform experiences like, again, like Perplexity or ChatGPT, I think that's where retargeting is something that I think it's not an option right now. Whereas in app for Amazon with the likes of Rufus, like that retargeting will become so essential for them for driving those repeat purchases. And they've got like 300 million customers. They've got so much data, and they've been around for like over 20 years. So I think that maybe the worry is that them having that first mover advantage, maybe it is going to just potentially steal more market share in a shorter space of time, whilst everyone is still trying to like sort of scramble around.
Well, as you said as well, they've got 300 million customers. They've got a lot more data than everybody else too. So for those smaller SMBs and brands that are maybe trying to imitate what Amazon's doing with its AI, is that something that's really feasible if you're a slightly smaller organization? Obviously, there's been this big industry push to invest in your own first-party data.
Yeah.
People are doing that to varying degrees of success. It does seem a little bit like you're pretty much dead in the water if you haven't got access to data, one, and two, access to budget to do a little bit of innovation, because the other problem that marketers keep running into is they're hamstrung by their budgets, which are dwindling in many respects because of the broader economy. So they're sort of stuck between a rock and a hard place in that sense. And the likes of Amazon and the Walmarts of the world, they really can power things up. So have you seen this in your consulting work at all? How are you engaging with people that are facing some of those problems that I've raised there?
I think that's where there's maybe more like MVP versions of it. So like there's a Lando example where it's a ChatGPT integrated chatbot, which is not as sophisticated as what, say, Walmart or Amazon are doing, but it's a way for them to still provide that type of experience to their customer. I think as well, outside of their own ecosystems and going into like the bigger AI platforms, those platforms are learning based on the data that's being input to them. So if you're not moving into that now, like I think Amazon's actually decided not to share any data with these platforms, but if you are sharing that data, you're actually helping to build what that and shape what that looks like, and it's actually learning off your brand. So I don't know, I feel conflicted because I think on the one hand maybe you could afford to sit out and wait because you can let other brands test and see what works. There's obviously a skills gap within this space. So actually, you know, do you want something like retail media, for example, and do you want to wait until actually that expertise really builds up in a couple of years' time and then benefit from what Amazon have got the budget to fail, right? So actually, can you just wait and learn from them and then you can do it at a later
Capitalize
stage?
off their hard work, let them come up with the blueprint for success. It's interesting to sort of lay in wait. I think marketers will like hearing that from you, sir, if I'm honest. I think, we could sort of, we don't have to act right now. We haven't got the budget to fail and fail fast and optimize and re-optimize. So maybe we can try and learn from the best. We'll have to wait and see if that works.
I guess to your point about budget, I think this is where thinking about, okay, how can AI be utilized across the rest of your business to find budget efficiencies that you can then reinvest. So obviously we've seen that in fulfillment processes. It could be from like creative or content creation, reallocating those resources and budget within the business to actually invest more in this space. So maybe that's sort of a best place to start in terms of actually how can I use AI more efficiently within the business itself. So I'll give an example like Klarna, 2/3 of their customer service queries now are via AI. And obviously that's replacing like customer service, like headcount, but actually can that budget be allocated somewhere else?
The interesting point as well is on the skills gap you identified there. And how long do you think it's going to take before we're hiring to fill that gap? I'm thinking about universities and students coming through. You've got SEO specialists. When are we going to be hiring the first GEO specialist? When are we going to be looking at the first degrees and courses that have got AI optimization somewhere within them? Are these positions, obviously that's in the future, but are you seeing in your work brands, organizations already maybe using some of that extra budget to hire people to specialize in AI?
Yeah, so there's companies like Nike and H&M. They do have people that are heads of or directors of AI and innovation. And there's a few brands that I've spoken to and they now have targets against AI specifically. So not even from a monetary perspective, but actually how can we implement AI across like a certain percentage of like the core functions in the business. So lots of brands do have people who head that function up specifically. And there are now companies that I was speaking to a company called Azoma, and they're a GEO specialist platform and consultancy, and they've come in to help advise business on how to optimize to appear within search results within these platforms. So it's already there on more of a sort of standardized scale. Like it's not quite there yet. In terms of time, I don't know. I couldn't really say because everything's changing so quickly.
That's the trouble, isn't it? But it seems to already be taking over the R&D department in many respects at most organizations. Hello, Performance Marketing Unlocked listeners. Host Joe here, interrupting your episode very briefly to tell you about Performance Marketing World Unlocked, the ultimate event for performance marketers, which is returning for 2026. PMW Unlocked will be back in the Business Design Centre in London on the 3rd and 4th of March next year. It is the essential event for professionals committed to unlocking the full power of performance marketing and brings together over 2,000 marketers, more than 70 speakers, and 6 streams of cutting-edge content. We're already thrilled to have leaders from top brands confirmed for our agenda, including Puma, American Express, and the Financial Times. Whether you're there to enjoy content from our expert speakers or soak up some networking that actually matters at our famous exclusive Performance Marketing World Unlocked after party, this event is not to be missed. There's 2 types of tickets. We've got 1,500 free brand tickets available at www.performancemarketingunlocked.com. And at the same link, there are agency, supplier, and affiliate tickets available for purchase, where at the moment, if you hurry, you can save £300. Now, there's limited availability for those, so agencies, suppliers, and affiliates, make sure you head to that link ASAP. In 2026, excitingly, we will also be hosting the PMW Forum hosted buyer program as part of PMW Unlocked. The exclusive offering is open to senior brand marketers, and you can register your interest in our hosted buyer program for exclusive one-to-one meetings, a complimentary hotel stay, and tailored networking to find specialist partners at the same www.performancemarketingunlocked.com link. With all that said, let's get back to the episode, and I'll see you there at the BDC next year. What do you think are the biggest e-commerce more broadly, so not specifically AI, but it might have a role to play? What are the biggest opportunities and threats that are facing the e-commerce industry at the moment?
Within AI specifically?
No, just in general. I mean, AI might be an
Yeah,
opportunity
yeah.
or a threat, but elsewhere. What are they contending with? And, you know, what are the pain points coming up in your work? And what are the areas and the sort of USPs people are identifying them that are putting them ahead of the pack when everyone else might be struggling?
I think that the threats, particularly within the mobile space, or apps that are HQ'd in China, so we're looking at like Temu and Shein, every company, e-commerce company you're speaking to, like around the world, including like South America, they're so scared because they've come in and just completely dominated the shopping app category, and they're taking quite a bit of market share away. So there's that element, and then there's obviously other macro elements, like, you know, in the US, things like the tariff changes, how that's impacted things like profitability and margins. Access to first-party data, so lots of like privacy changes that have happened and are happening. So that's why we've seen the growth of retail media, because then, you know, it's so profitable. I think the margins are something like 90%, and they're able to like sell and capitalize on all this.
Do you think retail media is the silver bullet that some people argue it is?
I think when looking for these incremental profit opportunities, I think it right now it is working. And given what I mentioned about this sort of squeeze on margins that is happening and profitability because of things like tariff changes, it is ways of finding that extra revenue. But I mean, in a lot of ways, it's been around forever. I think it's used to be called like customer marketing. It's not necessarily new. I think it's right for businesses to start be thinking about it. What I worry about in the future is still like privacy changes, because right now, customers, like their data is still being sold to endemic and non-endemic brands for them to be advertised to. And I wonder if there'll anything around that might change in the future.
Certainly, they're contending with, if you're a global e-commerce brand, a myriad of different rules and regulations across geographies. I mean, in, you know, Europe and the UK, you've got GDPR. The US, you know, it doesn't. And then a lot of APAC is a bit like the Wild West, to be completely honest, in the way that they use their data. Perhaps it's why a lot of the Eastern markets like China have managed to get a leg up in this respect, because you can add to Temu and Shein. TikTok Shop as well is a big player in the mobile e-commerce landscape too. That's true. So there's a lot in there. So retail media, an opportunity. Is there anything else that e-commerce marketers can hang their hat on? Is it investing in being a first mover in AI that might put you ahead of the pack?
That definitely will help in terms of, as I said, it can be efficiencies and revenue opportunities within the business. It can be this new channel that businesses have to use as another touch point to surface themselves to customers within that buying process. I think off-store, in-store experiences, post-COVID, we've seen such a huge growth of store openings. I know Uniqlo wants to open an additional 100 stores this year. I think that's just across Europe. Same with Mango, all of the Inditex brands as well. I know Gymshark opened. They were a pure online player, and they've opened a physical store in Regent Street and New York. And what we're seeing is the businesses that are not just purely e-com, but a true omni-channel, they're the ones that are most profitable. If you look at what's happening with ASOS and Pretty Little Thing, who are just online, same with even the luxury brands like Net-a-Porter and Matches Fashion, those that don't have that in-store offline touch point, actually they're the ones that have struggled the most post-COVID. So we had that huge digital boom, and then actually this return to in-store shopping, not necessarily just as a purchase channel. It can be an experience touch point too, but I think that's not to be underestimated. Given everything we still know about with AI and the boom there, that in-store touch point has still become so important as a valuable channel.
I think that's a really, really valuable insight there, and it's not one I'd considered myself, but the sort of return of the brick and mortar, and as you said, brands like Gymshark that had traditionally been just online now have a physical presence. It really emphasizes the importance and the potential benefit of brand building. It just puts a face or a bit more personality to a brand when consumers can go and interact on a personal basis. And I think the thing that people forget about the in-store experience is so much of it now is digitized as well, whether that be through retail media, the fintech data that people have on hand there as well. And Retail Media and Co-op Media Network really recently worked with Lumen, who measure attention, and they sort of they had all these people come in and put goggles on, and they went into a co-op and they measured how much attention each brand was getting, and it was going back to the old school marketing of shelf placements and things like that. But I really love that insight, Sue, of don't underestimate brand and the potential of going in and having an experiential experience in a brick and mortar store, because it's something that we lost in COVID, and maybe people are enjoying having it come back.
I think also retail media, it's working in store through in-store displays. So I know Tesco and Co-op, they've seen a lot of success with that too. And there's ways to still get that customer data through loyalty programs or apps that you can use whilst you're in store, and you scan at the till, and then that way Co-op's able to know, okay, you bought in store today, this is what you bought. They can retarget you based on that. It's still valuable data for them as well.
Now, final question for you, Sue, before we move on to the Resell Me a Pen challenge, which I'm super excited for, as always. Is there one brand you can speak to who you think has gotten the move into the AI space right when it comes to e-commerce? Is there one that over the past 12 months, 24 months, couple of weeks, where you've just looked at them, perhaps worked with them, or just thought, I'm loving what you guys are doing, and I think it can act as a bit of a blueprint for other organizations or marketers that might be tuning in?
I think it's not an exciting example. It's quite an obvious one, but it's probably going to be Amazon because they've moved so quickly. They've really utilized their first party data. The example that you gave before around on the memory piece, that's where they're really thinking about their retargeting strategy, which I think is smart. Walmart, when they moved into that space, they were just thinking about, okay, how can we optimize search using natural language? And I think that only forms sort of one part of the sort of whole customer journey. So I think, I would go with Amazon.
It totally holds true. I know what you mean. And Amazon sometimes can go under the radar, especially when you're thinking about the big tech counterparts that are really its competitors, the Googles, the Metas of the world, and even Microsoft and Apple. And I mean, we called it on an episode a few weeks ago, the sleeping giant of advertising, which is, it's hard to believe when you consider how enormous it is. But it really is, it dominates the e-commerce space, and its latest innovations show that it's very much ahead of the curve. And the fortunate thing for marketers and advertisers listening, as you said, is, well, they're providing a pretty good blueprint for success. So do what you can to try and follow them as best as possible. Yeah. We'll move along now to the Resell Me a Pen challenge. I'll get up my 60-second timer here, Sue, but to refresh the audience and perhaps yourself of how this works, you've got 60 seconds to resell me an outdated product or service. I'll give you a little warning when there's 30 seconds left and when there's 10 seconds left. Before I start the clock, would you like to reveal to myself and the listeners what it is you're going to attempt to resell?
Yes, I'm going to choose MySpace.
Oh, MySpace.
Yes.
Fun. Oh, excellent. Okay, terrific.
Okay, I'm happy with your reaction.
No, I mean, it follows a trend recently where people are reselling like things that I suppose are outdated at this point, but they came to market in the 2000s and 2010s. We had an iPod recently resold.
I'm all for bringing the
episode.
iPod back. Yeah.
I know, which is like, these things have come and gone, it seems so quickly. Anyway, righto. Well, 60 seconds to resell me MySpace. So your time starts now.
Okay, I'm choosing MySpace because I feel like it was a more wholesome form of social media. And I just said, I feel like the 90s and early noughties are back with a vengeance, and it definitely fits within that. And I would say it's more like a form of slow social. There was no algorithm, no paid advertising or influencers that I can remember. It was just like your top 6 friends, your favorite song. And also, I learned to code through MySpace. I don't know if you remember this, but you had to use HTML and CSS to add your glittery background or like your custom background. So actually, it taught some like valuable skills.
Amazing. Well, 30 seconds on the dot. So I always give extra points for leaving some time in the bank, for keeping things clear and concise. So I really love that pitch. Yeah, I think simplifying social media is a really good way to put it. And you've appealed to a lot of listeners who can remember those days. Early social media, it was all exciting, it was new, it was a way to connect with friends in a digital world, but it wasn't so all-encompassing, and everything now's got to be a bit of an everything app.
Yeah.
MySpace was as bare bones, as simple as it gets. But then you spoke to something, you can learn some skills on it as well. As you said, you learn how to code on MySpace. I imagine that served you very well throughout your career, and it's a good point of difference. If only you could learn GEO through your relationship with TikTok. I don't know, perhaps you can.
Probably.
That's an amazing pitch though, and I one of the strongest to date, I think, because it really hits home, and you can tell someone born in the 90s that the appeal that that's what those early days of social media have, when you felt like you got the best out of it, but it wasn't so all encompassing.
Exactly.
It took over every aspect of your life. Yeah, it was a bit more of a positive experience. Do you miss the days of MySpace?
I think so. As you said, there's something nice that you just come home from like school and you'd log on and like the dial up, and you'd have like an hour before like your mum and dad were like, I need to use the phone. So like your time was it was forced to be more restricted, I think. So it was something you'd just go on for like an hour, and then that was it.
No doom scrolling. That's
exactly.
For sure.
There's no doom scrolling.
Yeah. I remember the days of coming home from school, and me and my siblings, we all had 15 minutes apiece to go on MSN chat and just... all we did was speak to the people we'd just been hanging out with school all day, but for some reason you loved it. Anyway, so a great Resell Me a Pen challenge to round out a terrific episode of the Performance Marketing Unlocked podcast. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And that concludes this episode of the Performance Marketing Unlocked podcast. A big thank you to my guest this week, Sue Azari, e-commerce industry consultant at AppsFlyer, for joining me to talk all about e-commerce's future and the need for the space to evolve for the AI era that is well and truly upon us. It was a very enlightening discussion, and it looks like Amazon has been the big winner in the space for a long time, and it may continue to do so, but rest assured there is a blueprint for success for marketers big and small. A big thank you, of course, to you, the loyal listener, for tuning in each and every week as you do. We will be back in 7 days' time with another episode of the Performance Marketing Unlock podcast. In the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the show on your podcast platform of choice. And of course, give us some love across social media. We're very prevalent with full episodes and clips across YouTube, TikTok, and LinkedIn at Performance Marketing World. With that said, have an amazing week, and you'll be hearing from me again very shortly. Bye for now.